Next, let's take a look at what we might do for graphics. Let's say this design is part of a phone holder, and this back part is ripe for a graphic design here. So you have a couple of options. You could hand draw something, and we can photograph it and put it in Photoshop, do a little photo manipulation, make it black and white, drop it in, not a problem. Or we can go to Google and we can do a bit of a search. We want to make sure that what we're looking for is Creative Commons or copyright free. This is from FreeSVG. Let's also quickly take a look at how one searches for graphics with the right license in Google, right? Remember that when you search, you have the capacity to search here under tools, right? Tools and size, color, type, time, etc. Creative Commons licenses. Now I said black and white, so it's coming up as black and white. You can also choose under color black and white and then Creative Commons licenses, and that will get you things that should be available for use. You have to double check because sometimes people put things up and say they're Creative Commons license, but they're not really. The dead giveaways when it's Mickey Mouse and they're like, yeah, Creative Commons license. Yeah, no. So there are lots of things, and to narrow this down, you may want to add, you could add a specific thing that you might be looking for, and you have all kinds of options there. That might be another one where, again, we see the colors coming up. Maybe we want to go back to tools here and say, yes, I need it to be black and white. Thank you very much. You can see that some of these are not Creative Commons licensed. It says can stock. That's a stock photo, right? So we have to go back up here to usage rights again. Creative Commons license. All of these should be fine. If you take a look a little bit at freesvg.org, that one should be fine. Do you want it with a shadow on it or no? It's going to be fairly easy to do this with just the black and white and a bit of a curve, right? So maybe this one's going to print a little bit easier. When you have that shading in there, it gets a little more complex because of the way the engraving works on the acrylic. You may want to have it just very, very simple. Okay, so what kind of a file might work for you? A PNG file, a PNG file, like the one I was looking at here, has transparency in the background. So there's a vector file, there's a PNG file, either of those is fine. You do want to make sure if it's a PNG file or a JPEG that it has a fairly high resolution. This one is pretty high resolution, but either of those would be fine. Okay, here's the disappointing thing. Some of these things you have to log in. I don't want to have registrations all over the internet, so I'm not going to use this one. I'm going to go back and find something else. I kind of like the idea now of having something that's a bicycle or cycling. Cyclists, tools, usage rights, Creative Commons, probably not. And we can go with black and white. What else do we have? Okay, some of this looks like fun. Oh, this is lovely. I'm going to go here. Wikimedia, I know I can grab from without having to register. So I can grab the SVG file here. I can control click on it and save it. And save it at my desktop if I want to. I can go back and I can download under here. This is where you see the resolutions, right? This is a really big one. This one could work just fine. Let's grab that. Save that. Okay. Any of these will work just fine. Now, once you have the file and you'd like to put it into your design, okay, this is where things get interesting. File, place. Okay, we're going to place a file. We are going to go find the file. This is the PNG file. I think that will work just fine. There we go. Here's the thing about placing a file. You have this interesting little graphic and a little corner. You can decide where that's going to go and how big it's going to be and click and drag that out and it will be that size. Let me do that one more time. File, place, go find the same file. I'm going to just put it over here. If I just tap, it comes in at the size it downloaded, right? But I don't need it this size. I need it this size. So when you file place, click and drag it to the right size for what your needs are. I'm just going to delete that. Okay, that's just step one. Step two, go back to select this. Okay, do you see this X over the file? This means it is a linked file, right? See how over here it says linked file? I also want to have my graphic in its own layer, and I forgot to make one. So I'm going to do this thing where there's the layer, there's my linked file. I can either click and drag this up here, because that's right on top, super easy. Now it's in the red layer. That's better. But it's still linked, right? That means that when I take this file with the phone stand, it won't take this picture. It won't be available because it is referencing the image file that is still on your desktop, okay? Or wherever you downloaded it to in your downloads. To get this to stick, you need to rasterize it. So we're going to go to Object, Rasterize. Okay, so your graphic is selected, go to Rasterize. Fabulous. You also want to keep the transparent background. Why make your life difficult? Transparent, okay? The 300 ppi is fine. And we're going to hit OK. And now it is selected, but there's no X, and you see it says image over here and not linked. This means you are all set. You can save, you can put this in the shared folder, and you can engrave this. Now it's going to engrave only where there is black. Okay? If you have a grayscale image, it will be less clear. You will see some of the differences, but it will be very low contrast. My suggestion is to stick to a black and white graphic for this acrylic project, and we can talk more about how to customize graphics later. If you decide you want to put this somewhere else, or you want to make it a little smaller, or you want to like change the dimensions for some reason, feel free. But it's one graphic. It's not a vector file, because I brought it in as a PNG file. Okay, so we're going to save. Oops, I had forgotten to save. And we have a layer with our graphic, right? And we have the layer with the design that's going to be the cut design. I'm going to select that, all the cut lines. I'm going to make those 0.001. Save. Fabulous. And I'm going to drop that into the shared folder so that I can cut that out with the engraving on it. And again, I'm going to look at this right here and say to myself, I am wasting space. Let's put that right up maybe 1 millimeter out from the edge so I'm not wasting anything. And you'll know because you only have a small piece of acrylic and it has to fit on it. So let's make sure that we do that. So that's one way to get graphics. The other way is to similarly take a picture of something that you drew with a Sharpie that's black and white, and as long as we edit the photo in either Photoshop or an image editing software, you can make it black on pure white, not a light gray, drop it in, and go for it. All kinds of options. Let me show you one more thing that you can do because this is fun and we're here. Let's say I wanted to actually cut out this bicycle design from this background because I thought that would be cool. Because it would be cool. I could take this rasterized transparent, right? Transparent, it's just black on nothing. And go here all the way down to image trace, make and expand. So my graphic is selected, I have rasterized it, I'm going to make and expand. Interesting thing, it puts the background back in, but you see the red line? You see there's a red line right there? It has traced that. Fascinating thing, it has traced all of it, so it has all of these different path lines. Now, we don't want the white part, we just want to cut out around the black part. So we're going to use our direct selection tool, and we're going to go in and we're going to delete the white part. So just click anywhere on the white and delete it. Oops, we have more white parts. And delete, and delete, and make sure you're on the white part and not on the edge, because that'll make more sense in a second. Now we have just the black part, and if we click on the black part, you can see how it has a stroke, but if we look over here on the side, you can see that it's a fill with no stroke. We want to flip that, because if we have a stroke and no fill, we can cut that line, right? How does that look? That looks pretty sweet. And we do understand how that can very easily, if we change that to a 0.001, get cut out, so we can have a cutout piece. Now, here's the thing. If I cut out this bicycle, you see this piece right here? This has nothing to stay attached to. Problem. So if you were going to make sure that this was all going to stay, you would need to go in and do some triage. Now, the good news is, let me go back, and the good news is there's a whole bunch of points on this. All right. You can see how there's like all of those points. All we want to do is make sure that some of these things are going to stay attached to the solid piece, right? So if I, for example, select maybe that much, I can delete that. Now that's going to stay attached. Same thing with this one. We would like this to stay attached. How do we want it to stay attached? Not sure. Maybe we want to do that. That will stay attached. Maybe we want this one to stay attached that way. We want this one to stay attached that way. And we want that one to attach that way. Okay. Now, we have all kinds of fun things that we're cutting out, but all of the pieces are in some way attached to the background. Now, if we want this part to actually fall out, we're going to have to make some little lines in here. The best way to do that is with the pen tool. It's a little complicated. The other thing is you can go back to your, if the snap to grid is causing problems, you can snap to point instead. So you can go from this point to this point and it'll snap right in there. No problem. Click and click and click and click. And you can see now how this is going to allow this to stay attached and the rest of the bicycle part's going to come out. Another option could be to have the bicycle part be the top part of the design. You could do that too. That would be kind of fun. Let me finish this part. Okay. I'm feeling like that just didn't do what I wanted it to. There. I did not quite make it go. Please make sure that your points go one to another. And if you have an extra, you might have to do a little rearranging, but you want your points to touch so that things will do what you want them to. And when you're using your pen tool, just hit return, hit enter, so that you can go on to the next one. Otherwise, they'll all connect together, and you don't want that either. That's not too bad. That's probably a pretty big gap. That's all right. We don't want anything to be too fragile. There to there. That would work. Okay, so that would work as your outline. Again, if you had other adjustments you wanted to make, you could go ahead and do that from here, right? Because we have, put this over here. Maybe I want 2 handlebars for some reason. All right, maybe we want to have, that's not going to work very well. I don't know, maybe that looks more interesting to me. Maybe what I want to do here is bring those closer together. I don't know. You have the capacity to mess around forever is the problem. Yeah, so that should cut out okay. The bicycle part will fall out. That'll be empty. These things will stay attached. It'll give the illusion of the bicycle. Should be fun. So again, there's lots that you can do. If that's the case, all of these lines are now going to be 0.001. Ooh, and don't forget, if you see that there is something questionable going on with the stroke color, just put in black so that everything is as it should be. Go back, select all. We can do this at our 0.001 for our cut lines, and now we can cut the whole thing. Again, saving. So options for engraving, options for cutting out a shape. Again, you can do this with something that you've hand drawn or something that is Creative Commons licensed. Please remember, you need to document that the graphics that you're using are from somewhere Creative Commons licensed, right? So these will give you all of your licensing, right? Public domain, some rights reserved, blah, blah. Copy all of this. So you can, if you take a screenshot like this and drop it into your slide deck, that will show that your graphics are from somewhere that's Wikimedia Commons is all Creative Commons licensed, so that it's feasible for you to use that. Okay. I think that gives us graphics, engraving, and then object, image trace, make and expand, and creating a graphic image that you can also cut out. Okay, don't mind the ambulance in the background, or fire truck, or whatever it is we've got here. Okay, saving, and I think we are all set. Let's try that. If it doesn't work, talk to me. The key things are file place, rasterize the image, get rid of the background if you need to. When you rasterize it, do it to transparency. And then you're good to go. Make sure it's in a separate layer for engraving. Then if you want to image trace and create a cut line, you can do that. Yay! Let's see what you come up with.